Okay, I think we're going to start this over again because I think I had you off the broadcast, but I'm Kathy Graham. I'm head of HR services at PayEntry. I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Also, let you know that you will receive a copy of this in PDF format after the presentation ends. If you have any questions today, please put those in the questions or the chat area. Let's just see, I think it's under the chat area. And we'll answer those at the end of the session. Okay, so what is social media and social networking? We'll start out with, let's decide what we're talking about. Social media is any form of electronic communication through which users share information, ideas, messages, and other content. Well, a long time ago, gosh, I can't remember when things like Facebook started, but the internet started. I'm sure some of you have that number in your head, but it's been a long time. And so it's evolved over a period of time to where now people use it to do things like share their views and their family pictures and everything else under the sun. Social media today includes internet forums, special blogs, wikis, Twitter, Facebook, and many others out there. Social networking is the use of that social media to communicate with others. So now that we know what we're talking about, let's talk about social networking and media in the workplace. In the United States, more than 2/3 of adults use a social networking site. Many employees over time have made comments about their employer, how they feel about them, how they feel about their employment status, and other workplace issues that have caused grief to many employers, and there have been varying levels of reaction to those comments. Social media has become the podium for individuals who want to express their views about anything under the sun: politics, race, religion, human rights, and other subjects that may create controversy if it gets back to the workplace. And we'll talk about how all that comes together and what you can do about it and what you can't do about it. So I'm going to go through a couple of questions, a few questions here. Number one, do employees have the right to make racist or other inflammatory posts on their websites or Facebook site? The answer is no, unless you're a federal employee, and then you would have some protection in the workplace. But for private employers and private employees of employers, the First Amendment doesn't guarantee that you have the right to free speech in private workplaces. Employee comments, are not shielded from the consequences that can come from doing something like that under the guise of freedom of speech. So someone can't say, well, I have freedom of speech and I can say anything I want to. Well, they can't. First Amendment does not guarantee them that right, only federal employees. So another question, can employers discharge an employee for off-duty conduct on social media or in person? And I should have put a poll up here to see how many of you think you can do that. Well, it depends. That comes up a lot in human resources. It depends on the certain circumstances. It depends on where you are. Certain states prohibit employers taking adverse action against employees who do lawful things, including those that include what they're saying off the workplace or out of the workplace. There are these California, Colorado, Louisiana, New York, and North Dakota all prohibit employers from taking action against employees for something that they do off work. The remaining states allow employers to take action against employees based on their off-duty or away from work conduct, but then that in itself is limited too to certain things. Employers obviously don't normally have the time to police outside activity, and things that come up usually come up because someone complains or there's a situation that's brought to light because the media gets a hold of it, may require in that situation for employers to respond. You probably remember, for example, an employee in New York was recently terminated from her job after a video went viral of her outside of work in the park making racist threats to a man in a public setting. She lost her job. She lost her dog also because she was fostering the dog. Anyway, if you know which video I'm talking about, you'll know that there was a little dog in there, and I felt sorry for it because she was strangling it at the same time she was yelling at the man. So anyway, if you ignore something like that, that happens for to an employee in your company, then that could have a negative impact on your culture. People who are working for you now wondering why you didn't do something about it, why you tolerated it, and it could reflect poorly on the reputation of your company. So usually it comes up that way, and so you don't want to ignore the conduct that would constitute harassment of a protected class in something that a person does off work. For example, what we just talked about, somebody being uh, sent, a video being sent to the media about someone yelling and screaming and wanting someone to help her and protect her. So anyway, there are a lot of things like that that happen that don't get reported, but an employer that ignores that kind of conduct, especially when it constitutes harassment. It could be male, female, it could be age, sex, gender, all of those things could have a negative impact on your reputation. So another question, can you terminate an employee who makes offensive political posts or who participates in protests? And the answer to that is it depends. Again, employers in many states can't do that because they're prohibited from retaliating against employees who engage in political activities. Here's a list of the states that currently exists in, and then on top of the state laws, there are other local laws. Seattle, Washington has a law. There are several other places within the United States, and there's Guam also prohibits this. So it depends on where you are as to what level of action you can take. Another question, can an employer be held accountable for offensive posts on an employee's personal social media? And the answer to that is yes. If you're aware of discriminatory harassment, if the conduct creates a hostile work environment because other people know about what this person has posted, it comes back to the workplace. And this person may be working with someone of the race or sex or gender identification that they may be working side by side with them. Obviously, that's going to create a hostile work environment for someone. But it does depend on the facts and the evidence. So you do need to research and pay close attention to what is said so that you don't react too quickly. Make sure that you do an investigation. Can employees complain about their jobs online? Well, yes, they can. The National Labor Relations Act and similar state laws allow employees to engage in protected activity in the workplace. And sharing grievances online is protected activity under the National Labor Relations Act. And you say, well, that just applies to unions. No, it doesn't. It applies to all who employ individuals in the United States. So just remember that although your federal laws don't deal with this kind of thing, the NLRA does. And yes, they do control a lot of what the union does, but this one is across the board. for all companies. Employees fired for posting something online that where they're complaining about their pay, their working conditions, um, their hours, complain about management, could have a legal claim under the NLRA if you fire them. So you don't want to do that. There are other ways around it. Remember, that's called protected activity. So what kind of conduct does cross the line? We know hate speech of any kind regarding protected classes. And when we're talking about protected classes, we're talking about everything that the EEOC would call discrimination or call a protected individual. This is someone who's discriminated against based on their sex, their race, their religion, their age. Oh, sorry, that's the ADEA, but that would come into play also. But the things that the EEOC would look at as a protected class are what they are referring to here as protected classes. So if you have a threat to your employees' safety or workplace violence that someone has posted, then that's obviously crossed a line. And divulging confidential or company proprietary company information, trade secrets, things of that nature would definitely be something where you could take action as an employer. And hate speech is one that we are finding more today than before, and the workplace violence. So these are times when you can take action. So what should an employer consider before you take action? Well, you want to consider the impact of the conduct that's occurred on the company and the employees. Look at how it reflects on your culture, how you're going to react to this, your reputation. Culture is your internal reaction, reputation is your external reaction to what's occurred. Consider whether or not what's happened will create a hostile work environment for anyone in your organization. And then look at the legal ramifications. Could someone come back and sue you for not protecting them in the workplace? So there are different issues to deal with. So the steps that employers can take is to make sure that your employees, first of all, know your core values. It should be in your mission statement. If you don't have a mission statement and you don't want to go through the trouble of creating a strategic development team and pulling one together, get a team of your employees together and talk about what the company's core values are and create something out of that. Remind employees how to report these issues or inappropriate conduct that they observe, and ensure that your actions are consistent with your values as a company. So not just that you have those values, make sure that the action that you take reflects those values. Promptly investigate reports of posts or conduct that does not go along with your standards and policies in the company that violates those, so that you can get some information and react to it quickly. So don't put it off. Should you implement a social media policy? Definitely. A policy should make it clear what the rules are for your company, and not only do you need to put this policy in place so individuals know what they can and can't do or should or shouldn't do, but then you need to make sure you enforce it. If you don't follow your policy, you could face liability for those employees who feel harassed by it or from some other angle. Tensions, obviously, we all know this, tensions are running high because of COVID-19 and the anti-racist movement around the world, not just in the United States. And employers could see issues in the workplace that they need to be prepared to deal with them. So get prepared now. Don't don't create it at the last minute. Anything created in a hurry is not going to be the best output that you can make. for something that is this critical. So have a plan put together before you have a problem in the workplace. If you have a social media policy now and you'd like me to look at it, take a look at it for you, I'd be happy to do that to make sure that it covers all your bases. But it is important to have one and to follow it. Okay, are there any questions? If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I think too we have some here. Just a moment. What if you have any of these things already addressed in your company handbook with the consequences spelled out? That's fine. As long as it's in your handbook, that's a perfect place for it. And then everyone gets a handbook and signs to say that they have received, the handbook and all the policies in it. That's perfectly fine. And that's where you would find it in most cases. Okay, I don't see any other questions. If you do have questions about this after the fact, um, let's see here. I think that if you have questions after the fact or you've typed something into the chat that I'll get afterwards, um, the you will get that answer with your copy of the PDF today. So we're using a new system today, and some of the questions are coming up in a different format that I can't read at this point in time. So I apologize for that, but we will get these questions answered for you. Thanks for attending today. If you need any other assistance with an HR topic or issue, please give me a call. Comes with your membership. First 15 minutes on the phone with me is free, and I'll help you resolve your issues, review your handbooks, and all other kinds of things. So reach out to me if you need some help in HR. If not, and you just like copies of the webinars, please give me a call. Thank you very much and have a great day.